Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second ever Game Day Live. I'm Ryan Dalkin alongside Josh Lill and Stephen Claybaker, later to be joined by Ryan Nelson. And we are here for the great game of Notre Dame Dons versus Antioch. And we will be here, we'll be coming back shortly. We have a quick video to show you guys. It's made by one of our own, Xavier Buckley. It's a very good hype video. So we'll come back right after this video.
Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. E-double-L, I said so. I keep big bills up in my hood on the dirty like blood, so ain't got no twist in my head, but I'm still dreadful, and I got plenty of bread, so I go to bed full. I'm in it to win it, I'm all in. I might call you my cuz, young blood, but we ain't kin. You think of jumping, man, you best think again.
We're just going to ask him a couple of questions. So, Mr. McDonough, what do you do as a student manager?
So, I make films for the team, and then I help the team with drills, and then I just make sure the team is excited for ready to play and dominate.
Nice. That's something really cool. That's something really awesome to do, Timmy. Also, we have a few more questions for you, but to start, in your opinion, who has the best hair on varsity football?
I gotta go for Matt Murphy.
Who has the best taste in music?
Let me guess. I gotta go for Sheehy.
There you go.
Who's got the best smile?
Best smile. That one's a tied, so Anthony Sales or Jimmy Murphy.
Who's the fastest on the team?
Jillian Sure.
Who's the best?
Ty Gavin.
And who's the funniest guy on the team?
Anthony
Spandieri.
Yeah, Anthony Spandieri.
And, you know, with being on a varsity sport, Timmy, you got to have someone who's a serious attitude, always has the game face, you know what I mean?
I
so,
know.
which player has that game face, the most serious?
I know who's the guy it is. Patrick Carden is he's our dominator fighter. So I think he's going to help us for the team for the quarterfinals.
Definitely.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on Game Day Live.
Thank you, Timmy.
You're welcome.
We'll be back right after this. Make sure you stay tuned in, and we will have a couple more interviews. So thank you again for tuning in to Game Day Live. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So we are back here with Game Day Live. We are now joined by Ryan Nelson after his great time with the Academic Bowl. And I'm also here with Josh Lill again. So today we will be talking, or right now we'll be talking about Notre Dame so far this season. They've come so far this playoff spot. They've won 2 games in a row. They came off of that dominant game last weekend against Crystal Lake South. and now they're back here against the IHSA. So we are here again. So Ryan, what are your initial thoughts about Notre Dame so far this season?
Well, inside the season, they had a really good job using their defense, using their running game, using their passing game intermittently to really dominate the conference and their schedule. When they got into the playoffs, their offense has started to slow down a bit, but their defense has not lost a step yet. They held Crystal Lake South to 7 points, which was in garbage time inside the last 2 minutes last week. And their offense, 17 points is respectable. No rushing touchdowns, which we thought would be their very dominant force this year. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do tonight.
And so what about you, Josh? What do you think has been so great about this Notre Dame Don team so far this year?
Well, definitely what stands out, this has probably been, in my times here, and maybe even for a few years behind it, this has been one of the best teams we've seen pretty much in this decade. This season was their first playoff win ever since 2013 versus Palatine Fremd, and this today is their first quarterfinal appearance since 2012 versus Lake Forest, which did occur here. So definitely you're looking at a Don's team whose defense has stepped up, especially with very low-scoring offensive games. But Dons have only allowed 2 touchdowns in 2 playoff games. So definitely, I think one thing Antioch has to watch out for is they need to maybe spread the field a little more, get the Dons defense spread out, maybe run through the middle, linemen make room for a running back.
And so the Notre Dame team this year is coming in at a 9-2 overall record. They're 5-2 in conference. One of those games they lost was against Marist, and that was again a very tough game. I believe it was a one possession game. Yeah, so one possession game. So again, it was a very tough loss against. I believe they were definitely ranked in state at that time. So 14th in state. So yes, they had a very high ranking in state, and Notre Dame was able to compete with them. Although a lot of people thought it was going to be a blowout, but it wasn't, because the Dons, especially their defense, was huge. They've given up 122 points. 122 points. Going into the last game of the season, they gave up 75 points. Two of the games they played were shutouts. I believe one of the games they played was about a 49-0 game. So yes, the Dons defense has been a dominant factor. Ryan, what has worked for their defense so far this year that makes them, like I said, a dominating factor?
I think that the big contribution to this defense is the way they've all meshed together. It's not one level that's doing all the work. The linemen are getting pressure, they're stopping the run. The linebackers are in coverage when they need to be and are stopping the run when they need to be. The safeties and the cornerbacks are covering the receivers hard, and they're not giving up deep passes down the field. Limiting those big play potentials is a big part of what the Dons do great, and so I feel that's one of the biggest things that they've done this year.
What about you, Josh? What do you think's been working for their defense?
Really, everything. Their defensive line is just stacked with seniors who put so much into the game and really throughout their Notre Dame career. They storm the ball. On defense, you got the cornerbacks and the safeties who, can pick plays up like that. They see it through. They're able to get a lot of good pass coverage, a lot of knockdowns, interceptions, and credit to Sean Posner's 90-yard lateral fumble return. So definitely one little mistake for Antioch could take this game to a whole nother level.
And so speaking about the defense, we actually have some clips of Mike Tobias. So we want to show you those clips about Mike Tobias. He's one of the most dominant defensive linemen, along with Andrew Serrano and Brendan Sheehy and Mike Jackett. Those guys are absolutely incredible on the defensive line. So we want to show you this really quick clip about Mike Tobias and some of his plays that he's made for the Dons defense. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ryan Dawkin alongside Josh Lill, and we have a special interview with the defensive back coach for the Dons, Mr. Joe Pauly. So, Mr. Pauly, again, you're coming here as a defensive back coach.
Yep.
What's worked well for you guys on defense so far this year?
Well, I mean, defense is kind of a team effort. You know, we got 11 guys in the field. We have a very good defensive line, very good linebackers, and a great core defensive backs. So getting pressure on the quarterback, everybody doing their responsibility really helps out our part of the defensive core.
Mr. Pauly, so you look at the stats for Antioch. They're 11-0 overall, 7-0 in conference. They led their conference with 472 points scored for them that year, or this year. What do you think your defensive backs and really the defense in general have to do just to contain them, keep them maybe under 14 points if possible, like you guys have been doing?
Yeah, I mean, every week we get encountered with another challenge. I feel like this week is yet another one. In terms of our play as defensive backs, I hope that we get another great effort by the D-line and linebackers to help us out there. The biggest part about stopping the passing game is stopping the run. So if we can stop the run, and then I feel like we'll be challenged immensely on the outside, and I have a lot of confidence that our guys are going to do their best.
Definitely.
So you guys are coming in again. Antioch is one of a very, very strong team, 11-0 so far this season. Who do you think on the defense is going to produce for you guys? I know you have a little bit of a bias for the defensive backs.
Of course, I would love for our defensive backs to, obviously shine tonight. One guy in particular, Jimmy Murphy, stepped up tremendously for us this year with Ty's shortcomings with his ankle. So, I expect the same thing this week as every week. All four guys have been playing tremendously, and I have the utmost confidence they're going to do that tonight again.
And just a quick little question. So you guys, again, very strong season so far. What's the feeling like, especially when you have a home game for playoffs, a second playoff home game this season? What's that feeling in the stadium, especially with those home games?
There's nothing like it coming back and playing in front of everybody here, and we get some good crowds at home, and just the comfort of playing on our own field where we get to practice all week. So, in the end, there's nothing like playing in Week 12. In my tenure here, we've only made it to this position once, other than this year. So, it's exciting. It's hard to describe really in words where we're at in terms of playing a season this long. Me personally, I've only done it once too, so. It's unique every year that we get to this point.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Pauly, for joining us for Game Day Live.
And I just want to say one more thing. Credit to Mr. Pauly, just to show what a good job he's doing. 122 points allowed. That's the fewest in the ESCC this year. Less than Marist, less than Nazareth. So great job to your defense, Mr. Pauly.
Yeah, shout out to Coach LaFranza. He's the guy who runs the ship. So we just all operate underneath him.
All right, well, thank you again for joining us. We'll be right back right after this break. We'll talk a little bit more about the Notre Dame offense. And ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome back to Game Day Live. I'm here with Ryan Nelson and Josh Lill, the regulars so far today, and we're going to talk a little about that Notre Dame offense. I mean, is there really much to say? Ty Gavin, Anthony Sales, Julian Schur, that offensive line is just dominant. The wide receiving core is dominant as well. What else is there really to be said, Ryan? Can you add anything else?
I think there's a lot to be said, honestly. I think that the guys Notre Dame has up there, including those Ty Gavins, those Julian Schurs, and Anthony Sales, nothing happens with them without the offensive line. And this offensive line is going to get tested today. We'll get into that a little later with Antioch, but this offensive line has a tough task tonight. There's some really great defensive linemen in Antioch, and they add some very tough defensive schemes to recognize pre-snap to the fold as well. So, you know, Julian Schur and Ty Gavin know this, and I'm just going to reiterate it. They're only as good as their offensive line is. And as you guys both agree with me, you guys both know this already. Their offensive line is what has made them go, and I think that this game today, they need to get that running game going. Last week versus Crystal Lake South, they were able to use the passing game as the main source for points. But this week, they're going to have to use the running game and find ways to be successful in doing that instead of just stalling out on third down and third down over and over again on consecutive drives.
And so for Josh, we're talking about the passing game as well. Anthony Sales is one of the most dominant quarterbacks so far, and he's only a sophomore. What's been your take on him so far this season?
Well, first of all, just his credit to him for taking on this spot. You know, they could have had, there's a senior Rory O'Donnell or junior Max General, but you know what? Anthony, took the role. Credit to him. This is a big responsibility as a sophomore, so credit him for taking that. But also, he's such a versatile player. This kid has a cannon of an arm. He can throw bombs down the field. It's crazy. But also, his running ability is insane. What do you have against Geneva, a 90-yard rushing touchdown? What he can do is he can work his way around the line, and then once he sees that tiny opening, he can use his speed and break through it. So that's definitely something that Antioch has to watch out for, or any team in general.
And so now that we're talking about Anthony Sales, let's show you a quick little clip of Anthony Sales from his Huddle account. So let's see that quick little video. And welcome back again. I'm Ryan Dalkin alongside Ryan Nelson, and now Mr. Claybaker. We have a little special on Mr. Claybaker coming up, but not just yet. But again, you just watched Anthony Sales' tape. Anthony Sales, like we said, is a dominant factor for the Dons offense. But there is another factor on that offense, Mr. Ty Gavin. Ryan, what's been working so well for this guy, Ty Gavin? How has he been a dominant member of this Dons offense?
Well, there's a guy playing spike ball who just ran right behind us. You know, that's exactly what Ty does well. He runs with the ball and finds the ball, finds some holes. You know, Ty's just a guy who knows where to run. You know, as much as an offensive line can give you holes, a running back's job is to find the holes and get through them, and he does those perfectly. And when he doesn't have the holes to go through, he makes some room. Last week against Crystal Lake South, he had trouble finding some of those holes at times, and he kind of got stuck in the backfield going back and forth. But in my opinion, I think that throughout the season, he has showed that when he's fully healthy and fully ready to play, he's one of the most dominant backs in the state of Illinois. And
so we talked about, Ty on offense. But again, he's one of the most dominant guys on the defense, even especially with the defensive backs. That's where he plays. So, Claybaker, how has he been dominant on defense?
Well, for starters, in Notre Dame's coverage, he's really the guy that's responsible for one half of the field back there. And he's got to play from the middle of the field to the sideline on his half. And if he isn't able to do that, then you'll give up massive touchdowns. But due to his extreme athleticism, going back to his days at Immaculate Conception,
of course, you gotta shout out your team.
Going back to those days, he's always been just using his gifts, and he's also been really smart, because if you bite on the wrong route, you still give up a touchdown. So it's a combination of his athleticism, his brains, and overall, that's just what makes him a really good safety.
If we're talking about dominant defensive player, I want to shout out my former St. Thecla Falcon as well, Anthony Rinaldo, who's done a great job as a linebacker on this team too. You know what, Steven, if you're going to hype up Ty like that, I got to hype up my man Anthony.
And now I'm stuck in the middle of a grade school feud. Edgebrook.
St. Thecla champions, by the way.
Yeah, no one cares.
All right, anyways, moving away from this grade school feud that I'm caught in the middle of, we'll be showing you a quick video of Ty Gavin and some of his really interesting and awesome highlights. So here's Ty Gavin's video. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Game Day Live. So we're just going to talk about, I know you just saw Ty Gavin's his highlight, but we're going to talk a little bit about what's going to happen for the Dons coming up maybe next week if we play. So,
or Antioch.
Yes, or Antioch, okay?
Hopefully the Dons.
Yes, hopefully the Dons. But anyways, here's what it's going to look like, all right? And the teams that the Dons could possibly face are Cary Grove and Phillips. They're playing at Cary Grove right now. So what's going to happen is we're worried about home field advantage. Cary Grove is a higher seed than Notre Dame. But what IHSA does is they like to do it based on who has had more home games. So what it's going to look like if Cary Grove wins, which Cary Grove is up right now 20-16, if Cary Grove wins and the Dons wins, the Dons will play Cary Grove at home next week. But if Phillips comes back and wins, the Dons will play Phillips at Phillips, which is kind of far away. Not Crystal Lake far, but pretty far. But then whoever wins that game will go down to Urbana and play at University of Illinois for the state final game. So the championship will not be a home game by any means necessary. But again,
and we have a score update right now. It is now 27-16 in favor of Cary Grove.
So there we go. Cary Grove looks to have that the dominant lead. So Ryan, what's going to be the big factor going to this game to, not only fight for, that semifinal spot, but to fight for a home game too?
Well, the thing is that the home game, it's out of their control. So I think with this Dons team, especially coached by Coach Hennessy and Coach DeFranza, they're going to be focused on this week. We don't care if we have a home game or an away game next week. We want to win this week so we have a chance to play anywhere next week.
And what you got to think about this, though, as much as that is important, you got to look at this as a season as a whole. Right over there is the last time Notre Dame was in the state semifinals in 1989, and they finished runner-up. So as important as this is, like for next week too, and to focus on this game, you got to focus to get back in there in that state championship game to get the hardware.
And so we'll be back right after this, and we'll eventually be going into an interview with me. Yes, they will be interviewing me. I will not be interviewing myself. Yeah, you'll see why in a second.
So,
we'll eventually we're eventually going to interview the enrollment staff too, and we have a little bit of a special with Clay Baker's Corner. So we'll be right back after this break.
Welcome back, everyone, to High School Game Day Live here at Notre Dame's home gym. I'm joined by Stephen Claybaker and our interviewee now, Ryan Dalkin. Ryan, you look fitting at the desk.
Yeah, because I'm in a brand new spot. I don't have to worry about coming up with the questions. I just answer them.
Okay, so you know what? So we're talking about the play. The play opened last night with a pretty great performance. I was there to watch it and witness it. So Ryan, can you just give us a little synopsis? Don't spoil anything. No spoiler alert. No worry about that. Just give a little synopsis about the play.
I mean, I won't spoil who won the Civil War, but it is. Yeah, didn't know, but yeah. So it is a little play called Killer Angels: Battle of Gettysburg. So it's about the Battle of Gettysburg. I am portraying Robert E. Lee, and I'm also portraying George Meade and John Reynolds of the Union Army. So I come out as a Confederate, and then also the Union Army. So we started last weekend. I'm sorry, we opened up this week. We've been preparing for about 8 weeks now, so a lot of practice and a lot of time has been put into it. So basically, it's about the struggles between a lot of the Confederate soldiers in the Union Army and how they're trying to strategize to figure out what they're going to do and strategize because Robert E. Lee, he doesn't have a lot of information going into this, so it's about him kind of figuring out what to do and how to prevent as many deaths as possible. But it's very interesting. We have a lot of great action scenes, and we have a lot of great talking scenes as well, and a lot of great acting as well. We have a lot of new people too, so props out to all of those guys, and a big shout out to Mr. Halpert, our director.
Now, before you continue your questions, this is mostly for my own personal safety. I hear there's like some really flashy strobe lights and really loud sounds. Now, I scare easily. Do you think I'll still be able to go see the play?
Yeah. You'll still be able to go see the play.
Okay, that's
there
good.
There isn't blood or gore, all right? There's a couple of flashy lights at some point, but I won't tell you when. But yes, there are. Yes, there's some flashy lights. You're fine.
Ryan, you say that you prepared for 8 weeks and you went through all this hard task. Bring us into your life for the past 8 weeks. What have you done to not only prepare yourself for this role, prepare other people for their roles, and really make sure this play is a success?
Well, first of all, as a cast, I mean, you'll see this is one of the more interesting plays. There isn't a definite lead role. Like, people could say, I have the lead role, but there's also 2 other roles. Max Manfredini portrays James Longstreet, who's a very big role. Jack O'Connor portrays Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, who's also a very big role, too. So there's all these. We're an ensemble, and we all work together. A lot of the people that have smaller roles have a ton of lines. They may not be important lines, but they are there are a lot of lines too. So we all work together. We also we went to a Civil War reenactment a couple of weeks ago, and we actually got to see. We got to go to some of the camps over there. We got to see an actual battle go on. It wasn't an actual battle. People didn't die, but yes, we saw an actual battle. So. It was a great opportunity to work together. I also have a ton of lines, so I've had to go over a lot of my lines. I've had to work on my southern accent a lot, so I won't spoil you with my accent, but yes, there has been a lot that I've had to do to prepare for this role.
Now, Ryan, I want to talk about just the theater program at Notre Dame in general. You know, it's a small, when you go to open houses or shadow days, you just walk into the hallways, it's not a big theater, but it's a small theater. It's a little theater. That's what it's called.
Yes.
What do you feel that effect has on the actors and the audience?
Well, I think that brings us a closer connection, a closer connection with our audience. I think it's very nerve-wracking. Especially as an actor, when you have all these lights on you, and if you see all of these people sitting there watching you, you get a little bit nervous. But when you see kind of a smaller crowd, like it is at the little theater, I mean, I'm not saying that we don't get a ton of people. It's usually packed every night, but it's a lot. I feel a lot closer with the crowd, and also it helps. I know you help out with the technical crew. You help out the lights. It gets us closer with our tech. It makes it easier for our tech guys. There's a lot less that you have to worry about, although there still is a lot that you have to worry about, a lot less. So again, I feel like it brings us closer to the audience. We're able to connect with them more. We don't actually talk to them, but it gets us a closer connection with them.
Stephen, unless you have anything else to ask?
Go see the play, guys.
Yes.
Awesome. Now for the debut of our first ever Clay Baker's Corner.
Football time, time for formations, X's and O's, all different permutations. He'll analyze right before your eyes. He's a playmaker born for Clay Baker's Corner.
Welcome to Clay Baker's Corner, the segment that Matt McMaster loves to hate. So Antioch is currently 11-1, and while some people might say that's because of their weak schedule, you don't win 2 playoff games with no talent. Currently, they're winning by an average of 33 points. And not only is their offense explosive, but they have a really strong defense right here. They're giving up an average of 9.2 points per game, forcing 3 shutouts, and the last one was in the first round of the playoffs versus a pretty good ranked playoff team. So what Antioch runs is what we call an odd 3-4 defense. Now, what does odd mean? Odd means that these linemen right here are head up on respective offensive linemen. If they were shaded, like let's say this guy was out here, then we would call that an even defense because he's on a shade. But these guys are head up, so it's called an odd. Why is it called a 3-4 though? Well, you see here in this group of players under here, we have 3 people with a hand down, henceforth defensive lineman. We have 4 linebackers back here, the 4 and the 3-4. Now, starting off describing this defense, we're going to talk about what these big guys right here do. Now, Antioch, rather than what most professional teams do, where they just play head up and just try to see where the ball's going and slant that way, they predetermine where they're slanting. So let's say they call slant right, in which case they would slant this way, or maybe slant left, in which case they slant the other way. There's a lot of combinations you can do with that, but what that does is that means that offensive lineman, every single play, won't know whether this guy's going right or left. He has to trust the rules of his blocking assignment. Otherwise, the play is going to be blown up immediately in the backfield. Now, what Antioch will also do is on this slanting, they'll usually get into like a 4-point stance, which means hands and feet are all touching the ground, and they'll just shoot the gap. And what that does is that creates immediate penetration on the offensive line. And what the number one job of the defensive line in a 3-4 defense is to occupy these offensive linemen, so all 4 of these linebackers, and to some extent the safeties, are able to make clean tackles. All right, now we're going to talk about the back end. The back end being the safeties, the corners, and the linebackers. Antioch plays what we call quarters coverage. When you think about a football field, usually coverage is determined by how many deep defenders there are. Well, quarters coverage divides the deep zones into 4 different zones, or 4 quarters. Now what this also does is this guy will go to the flat, this guy will go to the flat, and you get drop off in here to wall off the inside receivers. Usually one of these guys will be coming on every play, but generally it's very strong deep, however it is weak a bit underneath. Well, versus the run, we have these 7 players in the run fit, while also having the safeties coming down aggressively in run support when the person they're reading shows run. So for example, if this slot receiver right here came down and tried to crack on this Sam linebacker, the safety would immediately fire down and attempt to make the tackle. This is also very good versus the pass, because usually when this guy ends up running and releasing a route, you should know by then whether or not you have pass or run responsibility. Now also, what's special about quarters is that there's called man-match principles, to where if the person they're responsible for, in which case the number 2 receiver, which I'll just number 1, 2, you count receivers outside in on defense, he's responsible to match number 2. If number 2 goes past 10 yards, he is responsible to him in man coverage. That prevents any option routes, and it also makes it even difficult to make the throw because you have a man following him every time. This also can sometimes be the case for the outside receivers, but not always. So now that we talked about what Antioch does on defense, you got to ask, what is Notre Dame going to do to try to counter this? By adding a tight end into the game, there's a really nice running lane right along here. Since this tight end can easily down block on this end right here, and this fullback can kick out right here, leading to a nice running lane for Ty Gavin or Julian Scher, average players to go in through and get the touchdown. Another way Notre Dame can easily attack this Antioch front is by running mostly inside. when looking at this run, you see the 7 guys near the line of scrimmage, and you might say that's hard to run against. But essentially, what you get, not counting these guys, let's say the slot receiver can get on under the fullback, you essentially have 5 blockers, or 6 blockers, even 7, maybe if you want to run it with sales, versus 5 defenders in the box. So you'll be seeing a lot of inside runs tonight from Notre Dame. The last way I see Notre Dame attacking Antioch's defense is by going to what we call a trips formation, or 3 receivers by 1 receiver. What ends up happening is Antioch will take this weak safety, which will usually be over here, protect against post routes, or maybe some deep ends, and they'll end up moving them over here to match the unbalance of the 3 receivers over here. Usually we'll say in the same match quarters coverage, but what ends up happening is you basically have this cornerback one-on-one with this receiver. And as Coach DeFranz will probably say, one-on-one is one-on-none. So maybe if you put number 4 out here, you can probably get post routes inside, maybe some deep comebacks as well. You basically have any sort of man-beating route on this side, as this guy will be locked up on the number 1 receiver out here. That's all we have for Clay Baker's Corner this week. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Thank you to Mr. Ogg for letting us use his room to film this. Back to you, Ryan.
Football time, time for formations, X's and O's, all different permutations. He'll analyze right before your eyes. He's a playmaker born for Clay Baker's Corner.
Where are the bloopers going to come from?
Round 1, fight!
Clay Baker's Corner. Football time.
How are you guys doing? We are back here with an interview with Mr. Boyle here, talking about enrollment. However, I got to clarify in my Clay Baker's Corner, I did not mean to say Coach DeFranz at the end. It'd be a little weird for him to vouch for an offensive player over a defensive player. But anyways, we are here with Mr. Boyle. We got a couple questions for you, but first off, I got to ask, how is this state championship run by the football team and all their success helping with recruiting?
Yeah, it's an unbelievable thing for the school. The place is going to be packed today with future Dons that are making high school decisions. They're able to see firsthand the spirit, the energy, the brotherhood that's alive and well here at Notre Dame. So many alumni are back today as well. Some guys are bringing their own kids back. I think anytime one of our teams succeeds at Notre Dame, it's unbelievable for enrollment and for our school and everybody involved here at Notre Dame.
So you guys, especially with the enrollment, you guys are very well known for you know giving out the Notre Dame gear, the Notre Dame sweatshirts. I remember in grade school, I would always have the Notre Dame sweatshirt on, like the one I have now. What's one of the big things you guys try and do, especially for enrollment, especially when it comes to these football games?
Yeah, I think you're right on. We want young guys wearing our colors, since first, second grade. We got the whole sea of green all over the neighborhood. I can't tell you how many people stop me to say, I saw one of your sweatshirts somewhere in the suburbs or in the city. But that's part of building our brand here, and I think when kids are proud to wear our Notre Dame gear, it just leads them right here in 8th grade where they make a great decision. And with the entrance exam coming up here in less than 3 weeks, it's great to see the sea of green and so many 8th grade students and younger guys here at our stadium. We're lucky to have such an awesome stadium on our campus with the band, the cheerleaders, the DJ. It's a great atmosphere. Really, for my money, there's nothing better in high school sports than coming here to watch a football game.
Coach, you mentioned it in what you were saying, and could you go in a little more for the entrance exam in case anyone out here is in 8th grade and they got to apply? It was moved up from when I was here, obviously, but can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, for sure. It's a huge step for us in the enrollment process. On December 1st, all 8th graders are welcome to come here for our entrance exam. One of the new rules now with the Archdiocese is you can pre-register for the exam. So that's kind of before your guys' time, or after your time.
Feel so old.
So starting on November 17th, next Saturday, kids can register for the exam ahead of time. They can make their $25 payment. So all the guys got to do is bring 2 pencils the morning of the test. We're going to have donuts for them this year. That's another new addition for us. So we're going to feed you. We're going to calm you down. We're going to make sure you're ready to go, knock the test out of the park, and then we're going to get it done, and we'll have a parent meeting at 10:30. So plenty of time still to come see us. We have shadow days going on like crazy the whole month of November. We want every 8th grade student in Chicagoland to be here on December 1st at the best high school in America.
Donuts would have been nice when
Yes,
we were
they
taking them.
absolutely would.
I remember I was quite tired from taking my entrance exam.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Boyle, for coming on and doing this interview with us, and for helping out with the enrollment and everyone getting the free gear. I've always loved getting the free gear. So again, thank you very much, and we'll be right back after this quick little break.
Welcome back again to High School Game Day Live. The gym is cleared out to the field. We're still here to give you our thoughts on Antioch. You know what, Josh, I'm going to let you take the floor here. Talk about their quarterback.
Well, from the film I've watched earlier, their quarterback is a sophomore, Ethan Kalikmanis. This kid is very versatile. From watching the film, in which you guys are about to see, he can expand. He has good distance. He's able to find receivers in tough coverage when going deep. He places the ball perfectly, which will definitely challenge the Dons' defensive backs. He can also throw good, nice, short bullet passes. Kind of like Anthony Sales, he can fire it really quickly, get the play down, and get a good first down. Let alone, he can run too.
Okay, now here's the video from Anthony Kalikmanis. So as you guys see with that video, Anthony Kalikmanis is definitely a talented quarterback who's a dual threat, either running the ball and passing the ball. So now we'll just talk about Antioch as a whole. They come in as the number 2 ranked seed inside their portion of the 6A bracket. They're ranked 43rd in state nationally. And again, in their 6A bracket, you're not playing in 8A or 7A, so you're going to be ranked in that mid-50s to 75 tier. And so ranked 43rd is pretty good for being in 6A. Last week, they had a nice game against Lakes where they came came in on top. It was only a 17-16 victory, but
Missed field goal by Lakes.
Exactly, a missed field goal is the reason that Antioch's here tonight to play Notre Dame. So it's definitely made a close game. They had a close game last week against the number 7 seed. Notre Dame's the number 6 seed. So maybe that Notre Dame 1 point difference can be enough to help them out.
Yeah, I mean, Antioch has been, or they've had a great year so far. Again, 11-0, 7-0 in conference. They won their conference. So they've had a very.
I do want to put, as much as I love talking about other teams, I got to put an asterisk on that 7-0
Yes.
record.
Yes.
The East Suburban Conference that Notre Dame is one of the hardest in the state.
Nazareth, Marist.
Antioch is an easier conference, so that 7-0 record may be a little bit skewed.
Because the next best.
Yes, we can't leave that out.
Yes.
Antioch did
Gotta
have
give
a much easier
context.
conference than ESCC, and then the Dons have with ESCC. So we
Definitely.
can't leave that out. But anyways, the national ranked. It doesn't seem it's 1,167th in the nation. It doesn't really seem like that a lot, but it is pretty good making it in the top 1,500 in the state. The nation. In the state, in the nation is very good. But yes, they led their conference in points. Again, put an asterisk on their conference.
We're not trying to discredit their
Yes,
entire
no.
conference.
No. They definitely earned where they are.
Yes.
They definitely earned it.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to keep on you off.
So, again, the second place team in that conference was Lakes, and Lakes finished 8-3, while Antioch is 9-2. I'm sorry, Antioch is 11-0. The Dons are 9-2. Anyways, so they did go on and win that game against Lakes. They were down, I believe it was 16-7, and that game came back in the third and fourth quarter, and that defense really shut down Antioch. And they shut down Lakes, and Lakes actually was able to not make that field goal, and we're now up against Antioch tonight. So because of that, actually Antioch and Lakes actually have this very big rivalry going on. Antioch and Lakes are schools very close to each other, so it's very similar to the Dons and St. Pat's in that sense. So again, it was a great game for Antioch. So they're coming into this game with confidence, with momentum, and that's huge. That's what you want in the playoffs.
Definitely. Sorry, Ryan,
No.
but definitely when the Dons have a lead, even if it's 3-0 or it's 23-3, you cannot take advantage of that lead. Antioch will find a way. They're 11-0 for a reason. Their defense can lock you down, as Ryan said, shut down Lakes in the second half of their game. And as for the offense, you can't die on them. It's kind of like the Dons offense too. You cannot forget about them just because one touchdown in the first half, can't do anything. No. Don't let that be the case.
Yeah, and that was a tough Lakes team they were playing, and they held in there. They did not give up. This is a team that, as much as you want to go down 44-0 on them, they will come back and play strong in that second half. They will not give in to any pressure from opposing sides. And so I think this is going to be big tonight. In my opinion, if Antioch wants to win this game, we'll say it every single broadcast because it's true, they need to start well. This Dons fan base is ready for a semifinal appearance, a final appearance. And Antioch wants to stop that. They got to put a stop to that crowd before they get started tonight, because once that crowd gets going, that team on the team for the Dons gets going, and it's just a rolling snowball that cannot be stopped.
Yes, and like you said, momentum is a very huge factor, especially when it comes to playoffs. And especially with football playoffs, not really other sports where you play a series, you mess up one game, it's fine. You usually have 4 other games that you can play. But with football, you have one game, and you have a week to prepare for that game, sometimes 6 days. You have one game. So one little mistake can prove costly, and you can't really see it, but on the other side of this helmet, we have St. Ignatius crossed off.
From our last broadcast.
Yes, from the last broadcast. So, yes, we knocked them off. The Wolfpack is gone. But anyways, it's up against the Antioch Sequoia, and so, like I was saying, momentum is a huge factor. And when you start to play that one game, it's absolutely huge because one little mistake can ruin the entire game. That one field goal that was missed by Lakes proved costly for Lakes because they were not able to all they had to do was make one field goal. If they were able to get a field goal early on in the game, they could have been able to win that game, but they couldn't. And momentum for Antioch will be huge in this game.
Now, Josh, what are your keys to tonight's game for either side?
So definitely the keys. I'm going to start with the Dons. Definitely, we said, don't get ahead of yourself. The Dons really got to focus in. Get Ty Gavin going early. Get him going offensively. Get him going defensively, and he can run past anyone. Last week struggled a little bit, but you know what? Still, on those little plays that could lead to a passing touchdown, he got the first down. So as for the Dons, get Ty Gavin going. Get Anthony Sales' pass game going. Had 2 touchdown passes. We haven't seen that much this year. So definitely Sales, I think, is going to get in his groove. So that's the keys for the Dons. Get Sales' passing game going. Gavin's game going. And as for defense, get the defensive backs, the linebackers, get aggressive. As for linebackers, attack the quarterback. Sack him, rough him up a little, because if you rough him up, he's going to get nervous, and every time he snaps that ball, he's going to think, oh, Dons are coming at me. Might as well just take the sack. As for the defensive line, same thing. No mercy. They just got to go right in there and get him. As for Antioch, their quarterback is, from what I've seen in the film, needs to keep doing what he's doing. Keep his deep ball going, put a little ahead of the receiver so he can, get it past the defender. Definitely use your short passing game to advantage. Maybe use some tight end slants or some curls, maybe some wide receiver screens, because he does have some speedy receivers. Use that to your advantage. Quickness is definitely going to be a key for Antioch. As for the defense, keep doing what you're doing, because the last game you could have lost. We wouldn't be here right now if Antioch's defense didn't play as good as they did. But they did, and we're here.
We were rooting for Antioch last week. Definitely not this week.
Absolutely not.
So, yeah, definitely Antioch's defense. Keep doing it. Rush the court. And, again, same for Dons. Rush the quarterback. Definitely play back a little, because if you have Ty Gavin coming, you don't want to blitz and then have him go all the way. Definitely maybe play like a cover 2, 3 or 4. Play back a little. Maybe man coverage too.
Okay, now you heard our analysis for both sides. Now let's get to our picks of the week. We're going to start with Josh here. Josh, what's your pick tonight?
I'm going to go Notre Dame.
Okay.
Because, Ty Gavin, he's going to be fired up tonight. He knows his high school career is on the line, and, coming off conference MVP, he's going to have to carry this team.
Okay, Ryan, your pick?
I mean, no, I'm just kidding. The Dons. So I got to go to the Dons. Again, the dominant team. They've had harder competition this year, and I think they'll live up to that hype, and I think they'll be able to win this game this week.
You know what? Why stop the party right now? I'm going to go with Notre Dame as well. I feel that next week there's going to be a nice red X over Antioch's logo here at this table. And just to finish out our predictions, Stephen Claybaker, who you saw earlier in the show, is going to join us right now. Steve, what's your pick?
I'm going to go with Notre Dame because I'm biased.
Oh, of course. Aren't we all?
Wow.
And now the final prediction, our producer, Carson. This week he's not going to go with the opposing team. He's also going to go with Notre Dame. Big surprise, the Notre Dame Run media crew is going to choose Notre Dame with a sweep of 5-0.
Really?
Who saw that coming?
I don't think anyone did. So any final thoughts before you guys sign off and we get ready for the game?
Beat Antioch.
Watch the game.
Oh, yeah, so we won't be able to film the game for you guys, but guess what? Follow the Twitter account. We'll make sure we update you on there whenever anything happens. If you guys come out to the game, $6 a ticket, the night's still young. You can always come back. And then after that, come to the ND Play. You'll see my man over here, Ryan Dalkin, on stage. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your weekend, and go Dons.